Dog, do you believe pot should become legal? This is from another type of dog. Any thoughts?
I absolutely think it should become legal. Absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
I've smoked pot and I've drank, okay? My morality stays the same if I smoke pot. It does not if I drink. I know Colorado's crime right now is down 6% 1 month after they legalized it. I absolutely believe in it as a calm you down, make you hungry. I absolutely believe. Now, heroin, methamphetamine is a killer. Heroin is a killer. A lot of people are born that, you know, are not, they have to have some kind of help during the day or to go to sleep at night. I absolutely believe marijuana should become legal.
Well, there's a lot of medicinal uses for it in this day and age. It's not like it used to be where people are just, you know, sitting there chonging. But, you know, it is the less of all the, yeah, it's the less of all the evils. And quite honestly, it's being sold everywhere. If it's taxed properly, it's no different than alcohol. And I just think that, you know, we need to move forward in the times instead of wasting all of our precious resources that the country barely has right now on chasing people through the fields, you know, for
growing
weed.
Buddha.
Yeah, locking people up. So, I mean, I just think that our priorities in the country need to be something different. And I think that, you know, with proper schooling and proper education in our high schools and in our schools, I think that kids will still understand that it's not something that they should be experimenting with until they become of age.
Illegal marijuana operations in the state reap $16 billion annually, and none of it is taxed. Marijuana is not a breakout drug. It doesn't lead to heavier drugs. We receive police reports from all over the country, and we know that when properly run, medical marijuana dispensaries, neighborhood crime goes down. Let me repeat that. Where there are properly run medical marijuana dispensaries, neighborhood crime goes down. The bad guys know that those dispensaries have heavy security. They don't want to be around it.
You saw the president earlier. He doesn't seem particularly inclined to legalize marijuana, but for years you have been advocating that the federal government do just that. Make your case.
Well, I think the war on drugs in general is just a total disaster. We spend $40 billion a year, and all it does is it enhances the drug dealers. I mean, prohibition for alcohol was a disaster, and now we've done the same thing over and over again. You're only talking about going back to 1937. You know, prior to 1937, the federal government wasn't involved. That was when the first tax was placed on it. And I just think that the states that legalize it, if any conservative ever considered states' rights, they ought to under these conditions, because these states legalize it. I'm a physician, and I can vouch for the fact that some very sick people benefit from marijuana. Sick people that have AIDS and cancer can use marijuana and benefit by it. And then compassionate conservatives come along and they arrest them under federal law. They overrule state law, and they put sick people in prison for this. It makes no sense.
I know you've held the view on decriminalization. Why, and how do you support it, and how do you defend it against parents who are so concerned?
Well, it's simple. You either read and study history, or you're destined to repeat it, Geraldo. We're repeating it. This is the identical same thing to the prohibition of alcohol. The minute alcohol was prohibited, that's what created all these border towns like Tijuana, Nuevo Laredo, and all these towns, Nogales, where they're having all the trouble, because all the U.S. people that wanted to drink in those days ran across the border and drank in Mexico. Well, that brought the prostitution. It brought the other behavioral problems down there. The simple thing is this: when you prohibit something, it doesn't mean it's going away. It just means it's going to be run by criminals now. because it's not above board. Well, the criminals eventually get so wealthy, they become more powerful than the government, which is a great deal of what's happening in Mexico right now. They have more guns, I might add. They get them from the U.S. because it's illegal to own a gun in Mexico. They got the guns, they got the power, they got the money. By decriminalizing, they're out of business. They have to find something new. It's not rocket scientists, Geraldo. It just takes politicians with some courage. Politicians who aren't afraid of, who aren't worried about jeopardizing their reelection and simply do what's right. Decriminalization is the way out of this. And for parents who are worried about it, parent. And that'll be the answer to the problem. I'll put it this way. Are people getting shot over alcohol and tobacco?
Not anymore.
And yet both of those drugs are worse than marijuana. I've never met someone who smokes pot and goes home and beats their wife up. I've met a lot of people that drink and do that. And I myself was an addict to Copenhagen, chewing tobacco. One of the most difficult things I ever quit in my life. Well, marijuana's not addictive. Not physically, it can be psychologically, but it is not a physical addiction like nicotine, and we allow those two drugs. Why wouldn't we allow marijuana? And then if you take it to the medicinal end, we allow doctors to give us morphine, but they can't give us pot? What's wrong with this picture?
Polis of Colorado, Earl Blumenauer of Oregon, both Democrats are authors of this bill. What exactly would it do?
This bill would transfer the regulation of marijuana from the DEA, where it's now a substance, a Schedule I prohibited substance, to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Marijuana. It would become. So it would change the status of marijuana under federal regulation, and it would allow any state that wanted to legalize it, either for medicinal or recreational use, to do so. And not have the federal government try to stop that. We have a president now who not only admits that he used marijuana in his youth, but
and inhaled,
and definitely inhaled, and did quite a bit of it. So and he seems to have turned out okay.
Marijuana, there is absolutely no evidence that marijuana is a gateway drug. In fact, all of the evidence is to the contrary. First of all, as we were talking backstage, and there'll be more discussion of, it's highly dubious that there are gateway drugs. There are gateway environments. And the fact is that by forcing people who use marijuana to go to black markets and forcing them to smoke marijuana in environments where they have to be secret for fear of being arrested, we put them in an environment where they can be exposed to other drugs. When you go buy a bottle of Grey Goose at the state store, it's very unusual for the guy behind the counter to say, I also have cocaine if you would like some. However, when you smoke marijuana and you buy it from a guy behind the bowling alley, and I apologize to the bowling industry in advance, that situation is much more likely to occur. But what do the facts say? There was a recent study at Yale. It said 34% of people who used harder drugs, heroin, meth, drugs like that, have previously used marijuana. Now, first of all, I would say 100% of people who use those drugs have previously had milk. So whether or not that is there's a causation argument to be made is very dubious. But what that study also said is, while it's 34% for marijuana, 56% for alcohol. 56% of people who use harder drugs have previously used alcohol, and 57% have previously smoked cigarettes. So if marijuana is a gateway drug, it is a really weak and ineffective gateway drug compared to these other drugs, which we not only legalize, but we glamorize, subsidize, and in the case of alcohol, actually sell. I mean, keep in mind, the governor has a proposal to dramatically increase the number of outlets that are selling alcohol around Pennsylvania, while he wants to continue to keep people in prison or in threat of prison for marijuana. There is just no rational reason to do that. The better way to look at the gateway drug effect is this. Well over 95% of people who use marijuana never use harder drugs.
So let's leave.